The evening carried a cool breeze, brushing against my skin as I sat quietly in the backyard with a half-empty glass of wine. My name is Adrian Cole, fresh out of college and still trying to figure out where life would take me next. The house was unusually calm tonight, a sharp contrast to its usual energy whenever Marissa, the woman who owned it, hosted one of her lively gatherings. Her events were always full of charm, laughter, and the kind of effortless elegance that drew people in. But tonight, it was only me, soaking in the quiet while the soft hum of the hot tub filled the silence. Just as I started to drift into thought, the sliding glass door creaked open. Marissa stepped out, her laughter light and easy, followed closely by her two friends, Clara and Sophie. Each carried a drink in hand, their faces glowing with carefree joy that made the night suddenly feel alive again. Marissa's eyes caught mine, a playful spark glimmering there. "Adrian, why are you sitting out here all alone?" she teased warmly. I hesitated, shrugging off the question, but before I could answer, Clara leaned her head with a mischievous smile. "You should join us," she suggested, her tone laced with a subtle challenge. Sophie giggled softly, setting her glass down near the tub as the three of them slipped off their light robes, revealing their swimsuits. Clearly, their plan was to sink into the bubbling warmth of the hot tub. Marissa reached for my glass, her fingers brushing mine for just a second too long as she said, "Come on, don't be shy. The water's perfect tonight." My chest tightened with nerves, but their laughter and energy tugged at me like a tide. Against my better judgment, I nodded slowly, not knowing what the night had in store. The warm water wrapped around me like a blanket as I slid into the hot tub. At first, I felt awkward, trying to keep my composure, but the bubbling water and the easy laughter around me slowly eased the tension. Marissa sat beside me, her presence both familiar and strangely unsettling. She handed me a fresh glass of wine, her fingers brushing mine again as if by accident. My heart skipped at the small gesture. Clara leaned back against the edge, her smile sharp and playful. "You look nervous, Adrian," she teased, her eyes glinting with amusement. Sophie's tone was softer, her voice carrying reassurance. "Relax. We're just here to enjoy the evening. Nothing serious, just fun." Their words were meant to soothe me, but instead, they heightened my awareness. Every laugh, every glance felt heavy with meaning. My mind raced, caught between the warmth of the water and the intensity of their company. Conversation flowed easily. Marissa told a funny story about her recent work struggles, Clara shared tales from her latest travels, and Sophie, with her quick wit, kept everyone laughing with one-liners. The more they spoke, the more I found myself loosening up, the earlier awkwardness fading into curiosity. But every so often, I caught Marissa watching me. Her eyes lingered just a bit too long, her shoulder brushing mine as she reached across to refill my glass. Her touch was casual, but it sent sparks rushing through me. Clara and Sophie exchanged knowing looks, as if they were silently in on something I hadn't yet grasped. As the steam curled into the cool night air, I realized the line between simple fun and something deeper was starting to blur. My pulse quickened, and I wasn't sure whether I wanted to step back or lean in. The night deepened, and with it, the air seemed to thicken, charged with an energy I couldn't quite explain. Steam swirled lazily above the water, blurring the edges of the scene, making everything feel dreamlike. Marissa leaned closer, her voice low and soothing. "You're doing fine, Adrian. Just let go." Her words struck me harder than they should have. I tried to laugh it off, but my chest tightened, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Clara smirked knowingly, tilting her head as if studying me. "He's cute when he's nervous," she teased, her tone half playful, half provocative. Sophie reached out, brushing her hand lightly across my shoulder. "You deserve to enjoy yourself too," she said softly, her words carrying an unexpected weight, like she was giving me permission I hadn't asked for. I froze, unsure of how to respond. Every sound, the bubbling water, the faint music drifting from inside, the laughter of the women, seemed amplified. My thoughts spun wildly. This wasn't just a casual evening anymore. Something was shifting, and I could feel it in the way they looked at me, in the way Marissa's hand lingered too long on my arm. I wanted to say something, draw a boundary, break the tension, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I managed a small nod, my silence saying more than I intended. Marissa's hand slipped gently to rest on my knee, steady and deliberate. The simple touch sent a wave of heat rushing through me. For a moment, none of us spoke. The silence wasn't empty, it was loaded, filled with unspoken possibilities. I leaned back, staring at the rising steam, trying to steady myself. I didn't know where this night was heading, but one thing was certain, it was no longer ordinary. The minutes slipped by, yet every second felt stretched, heavy with meaning. Laughter faded into quieter exchanges, softer voices, and subtle touches that seemed to carry more weight than the words themselves. Clara eventually stood, wrapping a towel around her shoulders as she murmured something to Sophie. The two of them giggled, their footsteps retreating toward the house, leaving Marissa and me alone in the hot tub. The sudden silence was overwhelming, the hum of the water now the only sound between us. Marissa turned toward me, her expression softer than before. Her eyes, once playful, now held something deeper, something that made my chest tighten. "Adrian," she said gently, "I hope you're not uncomfortable. Tonight wasn't planned. It just happened." I swallowed hard, searching for words. "I'm not uncomfortable," I managed, though the truth was more complicated. "Just surprised." Her lips curved into a faint smile, tinged with nervousness. "We're all adults here. What happened stays between us. But if you'd rather pretend it didn't," she paused, her gaze searching mine, "we can do that too." Her offer lingered in the air, tempting and terrifying all at once. Did I want to forget? Or was this the beginning of something I couldn't yet define? Later that night, when I finally lay in bed, I replayed the moment over and over, the way her hand had rested on my knee, the way her voice had softened, the weight in her eyes. It left me restless, torn between caution and curiosity. As sleep finally pulled me under, one truth echoed louder than the rest: nothing between us would ever feel the same again. The following morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds, pulling me out of a restless sleep. My head ached faintly, not from the wine, but from the weight of thoughts that had circled endlessly through the night. For a fleeting moment, I wondered if it had all been a dream, the laughter, the closeness, the way Marissa's words had settled into me like an echo. But when I went downstairs, reality was waiting. The house was quiet, except for a note on the counter in Marissa's neat handwriting: "Out for brunch with Clara and Sophie. Back later." Relief and unease tangled inside me. A part of me was grateful I wouldn't have to face her immediately, another part longed for clarity. When she returned hours later, her smile was warm but different, lighter, yet tinged with something unspoken. As she poured herself tea, the silence between us felt heavy again, until she finally broke it. "About last night," she began carefully, her tone uncertain. "I hope it didn't leave you feeling pressured. I never want you to think it was wrong." I hesitated, then shook my head. It wasn't wrong. Just unexpected. Her shoulders eased, her smile softening. "Good. Because we don't need to make it complicated. If you'd rather leave it behind us, we can. But if you want to talk more, I'm open to that too." The offer lingered in my mind long after she left the room. That night, she knocked softly on my door, wearing the same uncertain expression. "Can we talk?" she asked. And for the first time, we did. Really talked. Not about the hot tub, not about blurred lines, but about fears, doubts, and the strange bond pulling us closer. That evening stretched into hours of conversation, the kind I hadn't expected to have with Marissa. She opened up about her past, failures, doubts, moments of vulnerability hidden beneath her confident exterior. For the first time, I saw her not just as the elegant woman who seemed to have everything together, but as someone human, carrying scars and uncertainties of her own. In return, I found myself sharing things I rarely admitted to anyone. My anxieties about the future, the pressure of not knowing what came next after college, and the fear of disappointing the people around me. She listened without judgment, her eyes steady, her presence comforting. From then on, our rhythm began to change. By day, the household felt the same, routine conversations, small chores, and casual smiles. But at night, when the world grew quiet, something unspoken seemed to pull us together again. We weren't crossing lines carelessly anymore. Instead, we were navigating carefully, learning to build trust with every word, every glance, every moment of silence shared between us. Of course, doubts lingered. There were nights when I lay awake, wondering what would happen if anyone else noticed, if others saw the subtle shift between us. Would they understand? Or would they condemn it before hearing the story from our side? Marissa seemed to wrestle with the same fears. Sometimes her hand would hover near mine, then retreat as if second-guessing herself. Other times, she'd lean in just enough for me to know she wanted closeness, even if neither of us dared name it. Our connection was no longer about one impulsive night. It was becoming something deeper, something neither of us had expected, yet neither of us was ready to let go. As the weeks turned into months, the bond between Marissa and me quietly deepened. We never announced it, never defined it with labels, but it was there, in the way her eyes softened when she looked at me, in the comfort I felt when I shared my thoughts with her, in the honesty we allowed ourselves only behind closed doors. Still, challenges were inevitable. There were moments of doubt when I questioned whether we were making a mistake, whether this connection could withstand the weight of secrecy and judgment. Marissa voiced those same fears late one night as we sat on the porch, watching the fading light of dusk. "Sometimes I wonder if this is too complicated," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But then I think about how much stronger I feel with you beside me. And I realize I don't want to let that go." I reached for her hand, steadying both of us with a quiet truth. We don't have to have all the answers right now. What matters is how we treat each other, honestly, respectfully, without pressure. Her shoulders eased, and for the first time in weeks, I saw pure relief in her smile. It wasn't about chasing something reckless anymore. It was about building something meaningful, one careful step at a time. As autumn arrived, the air grew cooler, carrying with it a sense of change. One evening, sitting side by side, Marissa whispered words that left me still inside. "I think I'm falling in love with you." I held her gaze, my chest tightening. I've been there for a while now. The world outside might never understand, but in that moment, under the fading sky, all that mattered was the trust and truth we had built together.